All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and start with the introduction. Heidi will be jumping on later in this seminar, and she will be closing out. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Crystal. I work at the BREA Chamber of Commerce. I do a lot of the communications. I'm executive assistant to Heidi, and I've been here for a little over 3 years. So many of you guys probably have interfaced with me online. I am just letting you guys know that this seminar is going to be recorded. So if you guys need to access it later on, then go ahead and reach out to me. But I just wanted to give that disclosure beforehand. And then today is session 3 out of 6 of Experience the Real Magic of NLP. And we have with us Paul Webb, who is a certified master NLP practitioner. So I'm going to go ahead and give the stage or the Zoom call to him, and then I will make him the host as well so he can share his PowerPoint. But Paul, go ahead and give a little bit about yourself.
I think that some of you have been in previous classes. Are we sharing the screen quite yet, Crystal?
Yes, you should have access now.
Okay, let me just screen share. And everybody should see the screen now. There's Anthony, can you see the screen okay?
Yes, I can.
There should be a PowerPoint slide on the right-hand side and today's handout. So please use your handout to write into it. My introduction of myself is 30 plus years of consulting, sales professionals, researching. I think I mentioned in one of my other seminars that if I take all the material from another trainer, that's called plagiarism, and I can be sued for that. But when you take from more than one, that's called research. And I do a lot of research. So I take a lot of material from a lot of different, I've had people look at my leadership course and go, oh, I know exactly what you did. You took some from the Wilson program, the Xerox program, you took some from this program. And that's what I've been doing for 30 years. You don't have time to do that. That's my job. My job is to research what are the best training programs out there, and then take that material, test it by teaching sales professionals and management professionals. And then once I get a positive response from it, then I put it into a course and teach it to other people. And so my association with chambers is to help small business people, large businesses. There are all different sizes but business owners, mostly in chambers, who don't have the budget to go out and hire a training company to come in-house. And so we provide this as a service for the chamber and the chamber members. And I'm excited to help everybody here today. The class 3, each class has some independent information on it, but they do build on the previous classes. So there's always a little bit of a review. It moves very quickly. Take a lot of notes. On the very first page of your handout is a little bit of a background, a little bit about me. The second page, it talks about Shane Parrish, the great mental models, general thinking concepts. So this is another guy I'm researching right now. And he's written an encyclopedia on how people make good decisions. I mean, when was the last time you saw an encyclopedia on the human development of good? Now, Joseph, you'll like this guy's background. At 20 years old, he was hired by the Canadian government in their CIA department, okay, as an IT guy. And 1 week later was 9/11. And so he was pushed into a global system of identifying all of the secret messages around the world representing the Canadian government at 20 years old. And because he was the hottest IT guy, everybody came to him. And this guy is making recommendations on where to move Canadian troops around the planet. And he's 20 years old. And he's looking at the decision process of all the people on how they make decisions. And I've been researching this guy. And if you look at this page here on page 2, every single day you make about, please put the answer in there, 35,000 decisions every single day. Every single day we make. And the difference between knowledge and understanding. And so this first portion of the program just talks about how do we make decisions? What made you decide to come on to the seminar this morning? What made me, when I was cutting an apple this morning, as it slipped out of my hand and a slice was about to fall, what made me reach out and grab it and catch it in midair and not be afraid that I had a knife in my other hand? What decision-making process do we go through with a customer, Danielle, of someone that's interested in women in business? And can a coach help me personally? How do I make that decision? Do I check out your references? Do I decide to wear a Zoom meeting and wear sandals because you can't see my feet? What made me decide to do the things I'm doing? And so we're going to talk a little bit about what makes decisions and how you go through decision making, review of the material, new material, done, 90 minutes. So I want to just introduce you to this guy, Shay, and you can get him, if you see on your handout, it's Rich Roll Podcast from April 20th. Now, Rich Roll is an ultra marathon. This guy ran, I think his record is he ran 5 marathons in 5 days. So he's what we call an ultra athlete. And he wrote a book called Finding Ultra. And now he has a podcast, and he brings on people like Shane Parrish, people that are authors that have books that inspire people and have good ideas. And I like to listen to this guy, Rich Roll. So if you like podcasts, I suggest you look up Rich Roll Podcast. And that's where I heard this Shane Parrish. He was taught, I'm reading on page 2. I was taught to identify VAK. How many of you have been in class? You can see a show of hands. You can just raise your hand with me on the visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So if you're in the chat, go ahead and hit yes. Yes or no. I can read the chat here. Have you been in other classes with me, and have you been with Anthony's? Yes. He saw the visual, auditory, kinesthetic material. So everybody else is no. First class. Wow. Okay. So Anthony, you're the only person I can ask this to. What percentage of the visual, auditory, kinesthetic material are you using? The last 10 people, Anthony, that you talked to, how many of those people did you consciously make an adjustment for their learning style of visual, auditory, kinesthetic and changed your presentation to match up? 2 out of the 10, 4 out of the 10, 6 out of the 10? Type a number in there, Anthony. I want to know what percentage are you using it. Because, bravo, you're using 7 out of 10. That means you're using 70% of the material from the first 2 classes. See, I'm an educator. It's very hard for me to see, Joseph, it's very hard for me to see if you're getting this material when I'm teaching over a Zoom meeting. I teach snowboarding on the weekends. And it's very easy for me to see, all right, everybody, make about 6 turns and stop over there by the trees. And 2 people go off the cliff. Well, they're not getting it. You can tell they're not learning. So it's an immediate response. I can't tell sometimes if you're getting it today in this class. So I have to rely on you to take the material, practice it, come back the next month, more material, practice it. I mean, for the time we spend here, let's get some value out of this. And so there's homework to go on from class to class. If you're new and never seen me speak before, Jatinder, I'm a person that holds people accountable for things. And I check back for learning. It's hard to check for understanding and learning when I'm talking to you over a computer. I can't role play with you in a live class, and I most definitely can't make you, make 6, 7 turns on a snowboard to see where your balance is. And so it's a challenge as an educator to transfer learning. It's up to you, because self-learning is the only form of learning. On this next page, page 3, it says, you can't make good decisions if you're constantly pulled in different directions. We call this distractions or reflections. So what I asked Anthony to do was to reflect. Up here on the board, he gave me his answer. Reflection and solitude, engaged it to cement learning. There's a difference between being alone over a pandemic and being sequestered. And there's a difference between being loneliness and enjoying solitude. Some people like being alone. Some people enjoy reading and having time to do things around their home and do crafts. Other people are very social animals. And so there's a difference in their engagement. How do we, well, the only way we can learn is to reflect. And that's to go back and go over the material again. So I'm going to give you new material today. I want you to go back over it. What's the benefit? Are we being distracted? Squirrel. I mean, we know that I think it was Up was the movie where the guy with the balloons that traveled with his house, and the character, the dog, was always distracted. How are we distracted throughout the day? Are you able to pay attention right now? Are you trying to text while you're watching this Zoom meeting? So especially today, check my phone. I'm not reflecting. I have to be able to reflect to really get learning to stick. So the key component of learning is reflection. How we make decisions and how we learn, and we apply that information and we reflect. So again, the key component of learning is reflection. And what that is role play and practice and practice and practice. We are losing the ability to reflect because of so many distractions. And it really started with MTV. As quickly as and marketing today. If you put together a marketing video and you're doing something for commercial loans, I mean, how much of the attention span do you have of some of our clients? In marketing, we have to constantly, Irene, be able to keep people's attention. If I don't talk fast enough right now, I'll lose your attention. Irene will start doing other things. She'll start texting and looking at other things on a computer. And so I've got to keep your attention. And today, I don't want to read the whole book. Just give me the condensed versions. Give me the sound. So people today are constantly bombarded with all this information. So the key to learning, instead of just giving me the summary, and we blame ourselves. Oh, I'm lazy. What's wrong with me? How can I learn? How come I can't learn fast enough? Because we're not putting in the time, and we lose the responsibility angle to controlling our lives and what it means to live a better life and our ability to make better decisions. And this was Shane Parrish's work. The first thing you have to do is to control the step number 1 on page 3. Please write in the first step, control your distractions. Write that in. So you want to control distractions. And to do that, I have to go for a run every day. If I run 5-6 miles on a trail, that control, only thing I can think about is my breathing and my technique, my running technique. And that helps control the distractions around me. And what it does is it helps me meditate. It helps me spend time, and I can reflect on some of the things I've learned. So time spent, what is that distraction that you have? Next says, let's go back to learning on page 4. Most people think you learn from experience. You have to have an experience, and that's how you learn. But that's not how it works. You need reflection. And this comes from Shane, the IT kid, who's now in his 40s. The highest form of learning is teaching and reflection. So when I teach a snowboard class, okay, I want you to teach that person. I want you to teach this person. I want you. And so the highest form of learning is teaching. And so up here on the board, we've got my PowerPoint slide. I've got going from slide to slide. How do you create an abstraction? And what time will I spend? What will I do differently next time? And once you have that, you put it into action. And that's what's called a loop of learning. I'm going to finish up with the loop of learning right now. Here we go. The first is you have an experience. The next is you role play, you reflect. Then you anticipate, Joseph, using today's material with a customer. That's called extraction. So abstraction. I'm going to teach you questioning skills today. I'm going to teach you a different way to answer the phone. So can you imagine yourself using the technique? That's what we call abstraction. What will I do differently next time because I learned something today from Paul Webb's workshop? And then action. The action goes to an experience, and you have this full circle, and it's a loop. It's called the loop of learning. Then action goes back to experience. Experience, reflection. Reflection, extraction. Abstraction, action. So Danielle, same thing. If I'm selling to someone, that's an experience. Or if I'm learning a technique today, I have to what? If I'm trying to sell to someone and I don't make the sale, then I have to what? Reflect. Why didn't that person buy? What could I imagine doing differently? That's an abstraction. This is a process on how to make good decisions. Am I going to decide to use this guy's training today? What's that decision? First, we have to take what's the first thing is up here on the board. When we take time, please write that in, bottom page 5. You have to invest the time. Write in time, page 5, to learn and reflect. So if you're looking at this material today for 90 minutes, how much time are you going to invest on practicing? When you finish this workshop, if you haven't practiced it, you haven't learned it. And you can't make a decision on how to apply it until you practice. So this is a very simple process. You don't learn bowling by throwing a bowling ball one time and be an expert. All right, so I'm insisting that you schedule time after these workshops so that Anthony, even though he's spending 70%, he's able to have a 70% application process of what he's learned. 7 out of 10 people he's using the material with. Well, what else have we discovered? A 30% chance for improvement. And that's why he's back in the class again. So it's this, now he's practicing. We'll review some of that material from the first 2 classes, add new material, and that's today's class. So we have to take the time and we have to control our distractions. The second step is to reflect on learning. So you see that up here on the page. We control our distractions and we reflect on learning. So you have to make sure, for me, it's long distance swimming, long distance mountain bike riding. It's I do yoga at least 3 times a week. And all you think about when you're in a yoga class is breathing. And that makes me better on stage as a presenter, makes me better as a salesperson, makes me better as a business person, makes me better doing video production. I have to have that time to recharge. I have a watch that as I'm sleeping at night, it tracks my breaths and my heart rate and my oxygen intake. And so I can tell how many hours of deep sleep, light sleep, and REM sleep. And I've had this watch now for 2 months. I got to tell you, it's pretty good, because when it says that I'm in a negative and I go to work out, I'm dragging. When it shows that I'm in a positive because of the amount of sleep that I've had, I do my workouts much easier. And I would have never thought that a watch could track that. But that is reflection time. So control your distractions and reflect on learning. There is no quick win. You have to do the work and you have to apply the process. Now I'm on page 7. You make better decisions, you get better results. I'll give an example. The map is not the territory. So here's something new that I'm going to teach you. If you look at a map, you can see this town goes from here to here. And if I'm going to drive my car, it's approximately 40 miles. But what you don't know is that there's snow on the roads. So the map is not the territory. I'll say that again. The map is not the territory. So you can't make decisions as an IT person with just the map, because you have to take in consideration people's feelings. See, people's feelings, if I overload you with too much information, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Hey, you should know this. You should be able to, you're an intelligent person. You should be able to observe and be able to get this information fast enough. No. You don't understand. The map is not the territory. And that's when you take but it's raining and the road is slippery. So on page On the screen, it says, the map is a dashboard and data. The territory is people, biological. All right, everybody, here's our plan. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. There's snow on the road, but the map doesn't show that. So we have to take in consideration people's feelings. And so this theory, the map is not the territory, has to be considered so that you don't overload your coworkers. You don't overload people with decision-making processes where they may not have the skills to handle that many decisions in a day. So what you just learned is a very simple new concept. The concept is the map is not the territory. So now when you go back to the learning loop, think about the learning loop. I've experienced a new concept. I have to reflect on that. I have to do the abstraction. Before I give a coworker a job, I have to make sure that they are in a mental state to take on more work. And then I look at the action and the experience, and then I go back to what? The loop again. Everybody get that? So you just learned something new. So you take that new thing I just taught you and you apply it with this formula. The map is not the territory. People have emotions. I have to consider their emotions before I give them too much of a workload. So that's something new that you just learned. So I gave you the idea. I asked you to reflect on it. That's what we just did. I'm going to continue teaching you now. So what will I do differently? And where are my blind spots? So the next time that I learn something, I have to make sure the decisions we make are important. What obligation do we have to make the great decisions? Is it good enough? How much better can I be? Is there something I need to be comfortable with the things that I learned? Am I running my department with dashboards, or am I doing it with maps and really looking at the people? Am I borrowing from the future? Because if you want me to do something, Joseph, and you give me an assignment and you overload me, well, I'll take care of you later. Remember, when you pay back people that you're having them do something now and not being paid for it, you always have to pay back with interest. And so we're asking people with being in a pandemic to do more work, Danielle, with less pay. I'll take care of you in the future. Well, you better make sure that when you do, you overpay them, because the terrain is actually different than the map. So where's that most example? Online dating. If anybody's ever done online dating, the map is not the territory. The people that give their profile, when you meet them, you're going, that's not what the map says. So that's a perfect example when you understand that concept. All right, today's material, the letter B and the letter D. Some of you have never seen me speak before. Irene, have you ever noticed a child, or has anybody noticed a child getting the B or the D backwards when they're learning the alphabet? Yes. Do you know a way to fix that? You get a big piece of paper and you put it on the wall and you pre-print the letter B, and you have the child stand in front of it, trace it with their finger and say B. And at the same time, you trace it on their back. Bang! That will fix it inside their head. Joseph, did you know that? You just learned something new.
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
Yeah. And that comes from a program called Accelerated Learning. Watch this, Accelerated Learning, Accelerated Sales. And every class, Anthony knew that, because we start off every class with this material. So I'm going to skip through a couple slides. We're going to go right into the 7 keys to success. And we're going to see that on page 13. Everybody turn to page 13. The approach, please write in here, the approach always changes. Write that in, please. Get your pens going. If you're typing or if you just use a regular piece of paper, it's the writing that helps with the learning. So make sure that you write or type in the answers. The approach always changes. The technique never changes. So stay with me. This is going to move really fast, but you have this in a video process. So Joseph, you can listen to it again. All right. So what is the approach? If it always changes, that's people. The technique, that's the process of what happens in a sales process. If you have something to sell somebody, or somebody comes into your place of business, or somebody texts you or emails you and is interested in your marketing services or your consulting services or your financial aids or financial services, whatever you do whatever you provide, you wouldn't go, oh, thanks for contacting me. Would you like to buy my service? That's a closing statement. So you skipped all the steps of finding out what their needs are, matching up your specific products and services to their coaching needs, whatever it is that they want to buy, doing a trial close, handling their objections, negotiating whatever the concepts are, whether the services or the pricing of the services. You wouldn't go from hello to closing. So that's the technique. So you always want to have a process. That's why I like that guy earlier, Shane, that I talked about. He has a system on how people make decisions. And so his research is there's something that goes on inside our brain, and I gave you those steps as far as that loop, that learning loop on how we make good decisions. So next page. Page 14. Self-learning is the only form of learning. I can't make you learn today's material. 100% your choice. And that comes from Dr. Jeanette Voss' book called The Self-Learning Revolution. She's one of my business partners. Today, we're going to talk about sell people the way they like to be sold, not the way you like to be sold. So we learned in one of the past classes how to answer the phone with a new phone greeting. So on page 14, it says, greet, would you please write in, I'm happy to help you. Write that in, I'm happy to help you. Danielle, someone calls you on the phone. You say the name of your company. Hello, this is Paul Webb. I'm happy to help you. Now, if you say, how can I help you? You're questioning yourself and the caller. You say, I'm happy to help you. It's a new way to answer the phone, and customers and prospects absolutely love it. Now, you have to make a Post-it. So you got to get a little Post-it. You're going to get a Post-it and then put it on your computer. Go ahead, write it right now. Everybody get a Post-it. If you got one there, find a Post-it on your desk. Go ahead, write down, I'm happy to help you. Go ahead, write it down. I'm happy to help you. And that's going to be your new greeting. Take that Post-it and put it on your computer. All right, so when you answer the phone now, it's going to be the name of your company, your name, ABC company. This is Paul Webb. I'm happy. Now, if you say, I'm happy to help you, well, you don't sound happy, which means you just lied to me. So you have to do what we call a tone down, tone up. I'm happy to help you. Everybody take your phones off mute, off your computers. Everybody ready? I'm going to have you do it. I'll do it first. You do it after me. I'm happy to help you. Ready, go. I'm
happy to help you.
One more time, go.
I'm happy to help you.
You got it? So this is going to be a new way to answer the phone. And people absolutely love it. It makes you different. And so who hears it when you say this? You do. Go ahead and put your phones back on mute, please. I mean, your computers. So how to answer the phone. I'm happy to help you. Next line. Page 15. ABC company. This is Paul. I'm happy to help you. Certainly in your name, and then you get their information. Outbound calls. So everybody, one more time. You don't have to put your computers back on. Everybody say, I'm happy to help you. Ready, go. I am happy to help you. So that's going to be your new way to answer the phone. It's different. People love it. Now, some of you don't know my background, but if you're a Mercedes-Benz salesman, you have to go online and take your online factory training from Mercedes-Benz USA. I'm the guy on the videos. So I'm in every Mercedes-Benz dealership, every BMW store, every Audi. I do all luxury automotive. And so I'm the guy on the training films. And so I have dealerships all around the world. I do work for global Mercedes-Benz out of Stuttgart, Germany. And I have real estate companies, insurance companies, private golf courses, high-end Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, answering the phone this way. And the customers absolutely love it. Set yourself apart. You learned it today. Make yourself different. You have to do something different when you learn something. So, outbound calls. Joseph, when you call an outbound, go ahead and take yourself off mute. Let's role play here real quickly. You're calling me. You're going to follow up on an IT proposal, and I'm going to pick up the phone. My name is Paul Webb, and we're going to role play real quickly here, and you're going to ask for Paul Webb, okay? So bring. Hello?
I'm calling you. Sorry.
Yes, you're calling me.
And
Hello?
I'm the rep. Hi, this is Joseph Kwan. I'm calling to speak with Paul Webb.
Perfect. And that's how 99% of the people in the world introduce themselves on the phone. I'm going to have you flip it. Okay? Because when you say this is Joseph Kwan, my brain goes spin. Who's Joe? And I don't hear the name of your company. So on outbound calls, what's the name of your company?
Ambient Studios.
This is Ambient Studios calling, and my name is Joseph Kwan. You always say the name of the company first. Everybody get that? So this is new. So you're going to switch it. So everybody, whenever you call out, you always say the name of the company first. And then do you have a quick moment? Did I catch you at a good? You never say, did I catch you at a bad time? That's a subliminal message. Yeah, this is bad. I don't want to talk to you. And so be very careful of the words that you use. So on outbound calls, you just learned something new. You always say the name of the company first and then your name. Why? The company is bigger than you. You've got to get people's attentions. And if I call up somebody and say, this is Paul calling from ABC, their brain goes, spin, Paul who? Paul who? Who do I know that sounds like this? And they don't. That's why people are asking you, where are you calling you from? Because people have been asking you that because they get confused. You've got it backwards. So everybody get that? So on outbound calls, company name first. Next line. We ask people questions. So I have it up here on the board. Then now we're going into meet and greet. We're going into the technique of selling. When we shake people's hands, today we don't shake people's hands anymore. So with social distancing, especially with health practices today, we have to get on the pace with people. So whether it's face-to-face or mask-to-mask or over the internet or this now is our face-to-face. That's why I have to have the right lighting. I have to make sure that depending on who I'm talking to, what I'm going to have in the background, because that will affect the people that I'm talking to. And so I can change my virtual background for whatever company it is that I'm working in. And so this is now part of my greeting. And so depending on what company I'm with, where I am, what are my backgrounds, make sure you're customized, because this today is all part of greeting. So make sure that you are using the green screen services from a Zoom meeting. If you don't, make sure your background is very professional looking and it's not distracting, because this is my product. Everybody get it? So this is all part of the greeting. Now, who's in control of the conversation? The person asking the question or the person receiving? Anybody want to write their answers in? Who's in control of the conversation? The person asking the question or the person receiving? Please type your answer in. So the person asking the question is the one that's in control of the conversation. So would you like the dark or light colors? Would you like to meet on Thursday or Friday? Tell me about your financial needs. Now, if I use the word tell, that will respond with a long answer. You always start with what we call a broad question. The question has please write the answer in there on page 15. The question has a magical quality to it. Write the word magical on page 15. Would I ask a person, why did you buy this type of service in the past? Or what type of, what? No, how? So would you please on page 15, the word why, cross it out. Replace it with the word how. at any time, Joseph, when I'm communicating with a coworker, with a client or a prospect, always replace the word why. Why did you do this? Why did you put this report on my desk? Why did you, always, how did you come up with this decision? Always ask the word how, because that's engaging. When you ask a person why, you challenge them. Everybody get that? So in any form of communication, you always want to replace the word why with the word how. Great. And this helps with identifying a person's needs. If Danielle, if I'm doing leadership coaching, how have you been treated? Why were you treated this way? No. How have you been treated? Hear the difference between the two? And so always use the word how. Very good. So we always, in part of the sales process, we want to greet a customer. We want to find out what their needs are. We have to ask questions. We always start with a broad question. Up here on the board, always start with a broad question because you want people to talk freely at first. Now, on page 16, it says discovery questions. Please write down broad, long answer, narrow, short answer. This top part of page 16. So Tuesday or Wednesday, that's a narrow question. Tell me what your needs are. That's going to require a long answer. So that's a broad question. You want people to talk freely at first. If you don't let me talk as a prospect and you shut me down by keep on using narrow questions, I'm going to think you're not interested in me. Everybody get that? So you always start with, this is basic sales 101. You always start with a broad question. Now, when that starts to shut down, I can go into what we call a little bit more creative questions. On page 16, it says step 1. Please write in the word teach. You're going to write that in right there. Teach. Step 2, tie down. Step 1 is teach. Step 2 is tie down. Now, the technique I'm about to teach you is going to help you sell more products and services. Now, it's important for us to sell more products and services, isn't it? Okay, Joseph just did this with his head. Joseph, that's called the bobbly head. Okay, and that's every time a customer says yes, their desire goes where? Up. So I want to get little yeses all the time throughout my presentation, don't I? Hear that word, don't I? That's called a tie down. This pen, it has black ink. What this means to you is it's very, very easy to see on any type of paper. It's nice to have a pen that has high visibility, isn't it? Whoa, what did I just do? Would you please, on page 16, would you please write in feature, what it is, get these 1, 2, 3, 4, get your pens going. If you're not typing, get a blank piece of paper, write this down. I'm going to stop the class right now. Write it down. So get a piece of paper and write down these 5 lines, please. So if you're looking at the screen, I know you're not writing. And typing is not it. I want you to write it. So get a piece of paper and a pad. Write it down. Something happens to transfer learning into your brain. So feature, what it is. Next thing, what this means to you is, and then you're going to write the benefit, what it does. That's great, isn't it? That's called a tie down. All right. Page 16. Teach and tie down. Now you're ready for one of the most effective sales methods you'll ever use. If you understand that the customer needs to be right and you then uncover a need that you can satisfy, you're on the road to making a sale. I'm reading on the bottom of page 16. It's a two-step process. First, you teach. Second, you tie down. You teach your customers to recognize their needs and then tie down or reinforce your ability to meet that need. For example, you might teach your customers by saying, this refrigerator has multi-zone cooling systems, a sensor-based temperature regulation system, and quick cooling components. It's important that your food stays at the right temperature, don't you think? Here we get what I just did? I did a teaching statement and then a tie down. I'll do it again. This technique I'm about to teach you is going to help you sell more products and services. It's important for us to sell more products and services, isn't it? Everybody get it? This wallet has a point to it. It's not symmetrical. It has a point on this side. Why? It's a front pocket wallet. What this means to you is it's more comfortable to carry in your front pocket, and it doesn't throw your spine out of alignment by having your wallet in your back pocket, making you healthier. It's great, isn't it? Everybody get it? This IT service, this marketing service, this coaching service, this legal service, whatever it is that you're selling, does this. What this means to you is you're going to save money in the long run. You're going to be more empowered as a woman in business. You're going to be, whatever it is that you're selling. And then you say, that's great, isn't it? Everybody get it? What too many people do is they do feature benefits, and they forget the tie down. You have to do more tie downs, don't you? And when you do this, what's going to happen? You're going to sell more product and service, aren't you? Everybody get what I've been doing it since I started the class.
Yep.
So everybody needs to be better at this. And what happens is as soon as they go this with their head, their desire goes up. Now, I didn't ask them to buy today, but it's little yeses, and those little yeses contribute to what? To them buying the products and services. So read through these pages. This is a seminar for 90 minutes. I've got enough material in my head to do 64 hours of memorized material. I'm giving you bits and pieces of here, but you've got to go and practice. What? Reflect. Remember, that's why I taught you that in the beginning. You've got to role play these things. Read through these pages. Look what it says on page 17. Every time a customer says yes, their desire goes up and they get the chance to be right. The most common human need. What is the most common human need? It's not social acceptance. It's not love. It's not community. No, the most common human need is to be right. And if you don't agree with me and you think it's something else, that means you want to be right, which means I just proved my point. Jatinder, you got that?
Yes, got that.
So when you say to a customer, that's great, isn't it? And they go, yes, they get to say what? I'm right. So read through these pages. This is some of the best basic sales 101 material you'll find in any training program. Because when I sell a corporation, I have a guarantee that they will increase their revenues to cover the cost of the training. If they don't, I have to give them a refund. Over 3,000 seminars in 32 years, I've given a refund twice. That's pretty good. Whoa, look at this, page 18. I got a homework assignment. Homework, 10 creative questions for your specific product or service. Being a chamber member provides great training. It's important to stay current on the best selling skills, right? What did I just do? Feature, benefit, tie down. Whatever this phone has a scratch resistant cover on it. What this means to you is you can throw it in a briefcase or in a backpack and it won't scratch. That's great, isn't it? So what this means to you is, everybody look at what you wrote down. Go ahead, look at what you wrote down. Look at your page. That second statement was what? What this means to you is. Everybody say that. Ready, go? What this means to you is. So you that's your bridge that will take you to the benefit. And then you use tie downs. So look on page 18. You're supposed to do 10 of these. Now I gave you some examples on the bottom of page 18. These are plumbing companies. I do plumbing training. I do all kinds of training. This drain treatment will save you time and money. That's important. So I could use it for what? Financial planning. This will give you peace of mind for retirement. That's important, isn't it? Jakarta, you got that? So what this means to you is you can relax in your golden years and not have to worry about, paying the rent or paying the mortgage or being able to feed your family. That's great, isn't it? So this is a very simple formula. These are processes. And there's a lot of them on page 18 and 19. I gave you some examples. Now, I greet a person. We're in the process of selling. I ask them questions. I say, I'm happy to help you. I control or give the control away depending on who asks the questions. I always start with a broad question. I want people to talk freely at first. I want to find out what their needs are. And now I'm going to dominate the listening. So there's 5 ways to dominate the listening. Please write them down on page 20. They're up there on the board. Get your pens going. Write them down. Go ahead. If it's just a blank piece of paper, write down those 5. It's the writing that helps with the retention. That's the reflection of you learning. So get your pens going. Repeat them after me. Number 1, ready, go. Time out. Everybody take your phones off mute. Everybody get your phones on. Turn your microphones on. There we go. Number 1, go. Repeat. Number 2,
Repeat.
write it down. Number 3,
Rephrase.
Number 4, head nod,
Head nod,
eye contact. And number 5, ask for clarification. Now, would you say, yeah, how? Not why, what, how? So on this page 20, you listen effectively by repeating what a person says. So those are 5 ways to show that I'm effectively listening to somebody. I always want to dominate the listening. So listening is very, very important. I always carry a pad with me. And you're thinking, oh, come on, how old school is that? It's an amazing concept when you pull out a pad. Even though I might not use the material later, or I'll type it into an email follow-up, but when you sit down and someone starts talking and you start writing, or if you're on the internet with somebody doing a Zoom meeting and I'm looking at you right now and I see that you look down on a piece of paper and then look back up as if you're writing, what do I think as a prospect? Oh, you're paying attention. You're paying attention to me. I don't have to repeat this. And I'm a visual processor. I have to see things. So if I write down that Jatinder is working for Legal Shield and does some financial plan, how am I going to remember that stuff? I can't remember that. I know that Danielle's in leadership coaching and working with the visibility of women in corporate and visibility at work. I have to write these. I have to write things down. And so one of the best ways to show that you're effectively listening is to write it down, repeating things. A person says, I need to meet with you on Thursday at 2:00. I go, oh, Thursday at 2:00. That's great. So I rephrased it. I said it back to them. Dominate the listening. Too many times we miss things that people say. Then you go, oh, this is basic. It is basic, but it's very, very important. So every sales trainer should have this as part of their ingredients of the basic technique of selling. So read through these pages. Now, a person, I asked them, what do you feel is important in this particular product or service? In commercial loans, what do you feel is important? And so then the person's going to respond. When they respond, I now have something that I can do back. Now we're going to call this, let's see, I think I got a, anybody here ever worked in construction? Anybody here ever worked in construction? No? This is the house. This is the wall. So this is the house. This is what they call a footing. They pour cement in here to support the house. This would be the slab going this way. All right. So this is this is what's called a footing, and then they backfill this with rocks and cement. Now, before they pour the cement in here, they put in these metal bars. What are the bars called? Anybody know?
Rebars.
Rebar. Absolutely, rebars. What do they add to the foundation?
Strength.
Flexibility.
Strength. Strength. Absolutely strength. When a customer says, I need to meet with you on Thursday, you go, oh, that's great, because that way we'll have more time to go over what your needs are. What I just did is I complimented their decision and I reinforced their decision. Let's take a look at the top part of page 21. It says reinforcing and compliment. People love to hear that they are right. By agreeing with them, you create a bond with them. By emphasizing the benefits of your ideas as much as you can, you create the feeling that you are sincerely sold on your product or service. When you agree with your client and coworker, you are telling them you understand their needs and consider it important. It is essential to first agree with the need, second, introduce a benefit. Complimenting is something that will generate trust much more rapidly if you are sincere. Number one, why is complimenting so important? Please write the answer in there. Creates a stronger foundation, a stronger bond. Number two, give several examples of things you would sincerely compliment on a person. Now, I left that on the PowerPoint empty. So there's nothing there. What are some of the things you can compliment on a prospect? Joseph, I'll start off with you first.
Complimenting.
What could you compliment on a prospect? People are interested in your products and services.
I think it's just the forward thinkingness to be looking to consider invest in technology to help their business rather than thinking.
So their research,
or just their willingness, right? Because in a lot of cases, people tend to want to.
I like that.
Do things this way.
I like that. Yeah. So I would write down, forward thinking and willingness. That's great, sir, because that's going to set you apart from your competitors.
Exactly.
Do you hear what I just did? I agreed. And I said, well, that's great, sir, because that's going to set you apart. And that's important, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I did feature, benefit, tie down. I agreed. And as soon as I agreed with the person, he, inside his head, goes, I knew I was right looking for an IT company. And what that is that's a stroke psychologically. That's reinforcing that they are right. And that's what reinforcing does. It's a form of compliment. And when people feel right, they feel good about things, that's when their desire goes up. So everybody I know that teaches sales training teaches greets, questioning skills, listening skills, present, trial close. But they forget this step called reinforcing. I make it as important as a step as any of the other steps. Reinforcing and complimenting is an art. Some of the best salespeople I have ever interviewed around the world are excellent at finding the good in other people and letting them know, hey, you were smart for doing that. Now, hey, nice shirt, nice dress, nice watch, big deal. I've been doing it wrong my whole life. I had no idea. I was complimenting the item, and not the person. Instead of saying, that blouse looks good on you, I was taught to now say, you look great in that blouse. Hear the difference between the two? Otherwise, I'm not complimenting the person, I'm complimenting the item. So whenever you compliment a person, always make sure it starts off with the word you. Nice shoes, nice dress, big deal. You look great in that dress. Hear the difference? Now I complimented the person and not the item. About 6 or 7 months ago, I was getting off an airplane and I had on a tie and suit. I always travel in a suit and tie. And the flight attendant said, "Oh, what a beautiful tie." I felt like saying, "My tie says thank you," because she said nothing about me. She complimented the item. Always make sure your compliment goes to the person. And one of the simplest ways to do that is what we call RAB. Look on this page. On the PowerPoint, it says R is reinforce, A is agree, B is benefit. Everybody get that? So this becomes a new step in your road to the sale. Reinforce, agree, benefit. Reinforce, agree, benefit. Very simple. So when somebody says something, now you respond, you have an opportunity to build what? A stronger foundation. Without this, you're building a house on straw. Everybody get that? You want to build it on a stronger foundation. And reinforcing does that. It's the metal that goes inside the cement. It gives us the strength. So you have to be sincere. Does anybody know what the Latin word from sincere means? It's one of my students taught this to me. Back in ancient Rome and Greek days, merchants would sell statues, marble statues. And if there was a crack in the statue, in the marble, you couldn't get as much money for it. So to cover the crack, they would put in wax. And sincere in Latin, the Latin derivative means sincera. It means without wax.
Right.
And so what it means is I'm being truthful. So you can't BS people. So on this number 2, the answer, give several examples of things. So compliment on a person, please write in choices. Number 2, write in the word choices. You compliment people's choices. And Joseph, they're choosing your IT company to be forward thinking. That's what you want. You want to compliment them for that. What about their patience? Write that down, right? Compliment their patience. Their research, write that down. You want to write down, how about if they're with a family, their kids, their pets? You know, these are things if you're doing a commercial loan and you're on a property, someone drives a certain type of car. So yes, you can, what about appearance? Hey, nice looking wife. I don't know. I don't know if that's something I want to do. I don't think I want to go there. But you can compliment a lot of things. Number 3, what are the 2 steps to reinforcing? Please write the answers in there. Agree, benefit. Agree, benefit. All right. So on this next slide, look what it says here. For today's material, the technique, phones. I move that slide down. We went over phones today, the technique of phones, answering the phones, inbound calls, outbound calls, questioning skills. Always start with what? Always start with a broad question. Listening skills. There's 5 ways to show that I'm listening. Reinforcing skills. Reinforcing is RAB, agree, benefit. Agree, benefit. We went over questioning skills with also what? The teach tie down. So that's the new materials for today. Now, a doctor in a cartoon said this. Patient says to the doctor, I don't feel well. I'm not sure why. And the doctor says, I want you to meditate for 20 minutes twice a day, exercise for at least 30 minutes a day, avoid processed foods, eat plenty of organic fruits and vegetables, spend more time in nature and less indoors, stop worrying about things you can't control, and ditch your TV. Come back in 3 weeks. Now, we talked about decision-making process. That's how we started off today with the guy up in Canada. We talked about, and I can't think of a better doctor's advice. If you are in any type of need and you're not feeling well, that's some of the best advice you'll ever see. It's in your handout, it's in your booklet today, it's in this material. So let's go back to today's material. We're finishing up with today and then going into a review. Perfect. So some of you have been in class with me before, some of you have not. Today, we looked at the 7 keys. We talked about strategy. What stays the same and what changes. Page 22 in your handout. Here we go. Practice being positive. So we're going to talk about, by the way, there it is. I want you to meditate 20 minutes a day, twice a day, exercise at least 30 minutes a day. You can't find a better advice. Avoid processed foods, eat plenty of organic fruits and vegetables, spend more time in nature, less indoors, stop worrying about things you can't control, and ditch your TV. If you were all to do that, you'd end up making better decisions.
Yep, that's true.
All right, so let's talk about being positive. Page 22. Your belief in yourself and your product, along with your enthusiasm about getting your customers to believe the same thing, will make you one of the top salespeople in your profession and bring you tremendous and personal satisfaction. Practice being as positive as possible in everything you do and say. When you're tempted to say something negative, stop and think about how you could turn it around in such a way that will actually reinforce a thought or action to accomplish your goals. So, Joseph, you've got 3 kids?
Sure do.
All right. Has anyone here ever been a lifeguard? No? If you've ever been a lifeguard around a pool, you would know that this does not work. When little kids are running around the pool, if you say, don't run, what do they hear?
Run.
Correct. So what does the lifeguard, a seasoned lifeguard, an experienced lifeguard says what?
Walk, please.
Walk. So look at what we have here as an example of positive and negative. It says, for example, instead of saying, people complain about running out of hot water, even with a big 30-gallon tank, taking room in it, you could say a tankless water heater gives you endless hot water. Let's say with the kids, the one in bold here, you can practice on your family at home as well. Instead of saying, you're not watching television until that homework is done, say, feel free to watch TV as soon as your homework is done. Same bottom line, just with a positive approach. Are the words we say important?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So when I'm done with this class, I need someone to help me carry some of my equipment out to the car. And is it Jane?
Jane, yes. Yep.
Jane says, no problem. I'll help you. Problem? I didn't know there was a problem. How many times do you hear people say no problem throughout the day? So everybody say, be happy to help. Ready, go?
Be happy to help.
Be happy to help.
I want you to think about the words that you say. As you begin to practice these techniques, you'll soon discover how easy they are to use. Did everybody hear what I just said? As you begin to practice these techniques is what's called a subliminal message embedded command. Anthony, we went over those last month, didn't we? They're called bridge statements and embedded commands. And
Yes.
I put some of them in your handout. So I have on page 23 from our last month's class, something that all of you can benefit from. Here is a follow-up letter. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different examples on page 23. It's called the pleasure letter. Now I must have, and I'll show you up here behind me. I must have about 15 books just on follow-up letters. My library is all business library, and I've got another library here, another bookshelf with personal books. But I use one and I teach one. That's it. And Joseph, it's called the pleasure format. Now, we went over this in a previous class, but this is a review material for the people who I noticed today are in attendance, have never seen me speak before. This is one of your first classes. And so I want to give you some material from previous classes. And one of them is what you see on page 23. And it's called the pleasure letter. I'm going to send one to Joseph. It says this: Dear Joseph, it was a pleasure having you attend the BREA Chamber Zoom meeting. Next line. An even greater pleasure, hear the word pleasure. So here's the second pleasure word, would be to hear you say, now I put a comma, and now this could be a text or an email. Okay, this is what you send a text or an email. An even greater pleasure would be to hear you say, comma, quote, now he's reading this. I enjoyed the class and I am practicing the material on a daily basis, unquote. Now, when he reads that, who hears it? His subconscious mind. And that's where all learning takes place. And I get him this much closer to doing what? Practicing on a daily basis. Everybody get it? Whatever you want people to do, you put in quotes. So let's say to Tinder, you've got somebody that you talk to about on financial planning. And they say, I want to think about it. I'm going to check with my spouse. Dear Mr. Jones, it was a pleasure presenting our financial planner services. Next line. An even greater pleasure would be to hear you say, comma, then the quote marks. I checked with my spouse and we would like to have a meeting with you next week, unquote. Because isn't that what you want to have? You want to have a second meeting, correct? Yes. Whatever you want, you put in quotes. So let's look at the examples on page 23. Thanks very much for your time and interest. It was a pleasure describing, showing, texting, or emailing. You wouldn't put all of them in, whatever one you did, all right? It was a pleasure texting you our financial services information. An even greater pleasure would be to have you point out and say, your service is unique. I could picture having you be our financial advisor. The idea looks great and we're interested in seeing it all go through very smoothly. Everybody get what I just did? I just put it where? Into their subconscious mind. Whatever you want them to do, you put in their subconscious mind. Walk. So, who's got a Starbucks cup? Anybody got a Starbucks cup? Nobody in the audience has a Starbucks cup?
I have a Don Francisco cup.
No.
Coffee maker.
Careful.
It is hot.
The beverage you're about to enjoy is extremely hot. I wrote that for Starbucks. That's my work. It's on every Starbucks cup. What's the embedded command? You're about to enjoy. You're about to enjoy. You're about to enjoy. Everybody get it?
Yeah.
Are the words we use important? So Anthony was in last month's class. We went over this in last month's class. We taught this material last month, but you guys didn't get this. So an example of it is on page 23. Page 24. Let's look at it. Now, it's got visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. You don't know what that is. So if Crystal or Susan, are you online with us?
I am here.
Is that Crystal?
Yes.
Could
Heidi tried to jump on earlier, but
yeah, could you please make available to the attendees today the previous videos so they can get information on the prior classes?
Yes, of course. Okay.
So that's where you're going to find what? This material. This is a test on the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic material on how to identify a person's learning style. You're also going to find visual-based words, auditory-based words, kinesthetic-based words. The brain takes words literally. Human beings can only act on the information they are given. So when you say to a small child, don't run, they hear the word run. When you say, don't worry about our IT services, now they're worrying about it. Don't worry, I'll get that stuff to you tomorrow. Now they're worrying. Would you help me carry this out to the car? Sure, no problem. What did you just do? You just put the word problem into my brain. So in place of it, I put keywords on this page here. So how to use these keywords? Embedded commands. You might want to, and these are the last topic for today's meeting. You might want to. You might or you might not. Everybody say you might want to. Ready, go? You might want to. Perfect. Up on page 28, it says you might or you might not. I'm just stating the possibility. Now, these are what we call bridge statements. These statements take you to the benefit, and then you can take them to the tie down. Everybody get it? So I teach you formulas. So there's 6 of them. Actually, I think there's 7. Yeah, there's 7 of them before we get to the last page. I have 400. I'm teaching you 7 of them. So you might want to, page 28. You might want to practice this material with a coworker after the Zoom meeting is over. Everybody get what I just did? What's the embedded command? Practice this with a coworker. Practice this with a coworker. You might want to is a bridge that takes you to the embedded command. Read through these materials. This is what you can put into texts, and you can put it into emails, and it influences the subconscious mind, which is where all decisions are made. So when you're selling, this is called a Sales Masters Program. Absolutely, we go over some basics, questioning skills, listening skills, reinforcing. But then I add what? Advanced stuff. It's a master's class. So this is from what we call NLP. This is the magic of NLP, and that's the name of this series for the 6 months. Once a month for 6 months. That's the name of this series. So this is all NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Neuro is the brain, linguistic is language, programming, input and output. How I learn, how I take information in, and how I communicate with other people. And that was the first 2 sessions. This is session number 3. And when I asked earlier in the beginning of the class, I noticed that 90% of today's attendees, this is your first class. And so I always put in summary material from the previous classes at the end of today's handout and spend more time there if needed, which is what I'm doing now, with you as attendees who have never seen me before. So this is from the previous classes. Get the videos from Crystal or Susan at your channel. You're a chamber member. This is a benefit to you. So go. This is what I would charge $750 per person to come to a 6-hour seminar at the Marriott. So you're getting a great benefit from this, from being a chamber member. So take advantage of it. Use this material. Number 2 on page 28. This may not be relevant to you, but then I would insert the benefit. So I'm going to read this one in its entirety. When I say this may not be relevant to you, you start to pay close attention so you can check whether it is or not. Plus, if I say it may not be relevant to you, some people go, yeah, maybe it is relevant. Don't you tell me. This may not be relevant to you, but our guests typically get the whatever package you're selling. This may not be relevant to you, but studies show that when you use our service, you save money in the long run. Now, how can I take that to a tie down? It's important to save money in the long run, isn't it? Everybody get it? There's your formula. See, Joseph, if I teach formulas, because when I teach, I have a mixed audience of different products and services, different industries. So if I teach the formula, then you can take the formula and apply it to any product or service. Everybody get that? So this may not be relevant to you, but teaching formulas makes it easier for everybody to apply the material. Hear how I just use it? Now, it's important for you to guys get value from the class, isn't it? Number 3, experience shows that. Now, these are bridge statements. And I have how many? I have 400 of these. This is just 7 of them. Here's a great one. Experience shows that when you use our service, you increase revenues for your company. So what's the embedded command? Use our service. Use our service. Use our service. About to enjoy. About to enjoy. So where can you use these word tracks? Every single statement that you make when this class is over, reconnect to your customers who have, so you need to, and then start practicing this. Let's look at number 4 on the next page. It's not important that blank. What's important is that blank. So Jatinder, it's not important that you memorize all 7 of these. What's important is that you practice the ones that are most comfortable for you. Everybody get how I use number 4? It's not important that blank. What's important is that blank. It's not important that you memorize all 7 of these. What's the subliminal message? Memorize all 7. What's important is that you use the ones that you're comfortable with. Use the ones that you're comfortable with. People can only judge us on the words that we say. So give me the right words. And that's what sales trainers do. They do it for leadership and management courses. Listen to the words that you say. Record yourself if you're not familiar with it. And become familiar with what your word tracks are, because people can only go on the information that is given. So I'll repeat that statement. Human beings can only act on the words they are given, and the brain takes words literally. I'll say it again. Human beings can only act on the information they are given. So I'm not going to say this is the best training class that you've ever been to, because that's a decision you have to make for yourself. Everybody get that? That's number 5. I'm not going to say blank because blank. I'm not going to say your sales will increase by 15% when you apply these techniques, because that's a decision you'll have to measure for yourself. You guys like these?
Yes.
Simple, easy to use. Number 6. As you consider the benefits of Legal Shield or my leadership coaching services or my IT professional services, as you consider the benefits of our IT marketing services, you might like to set an appointment with my coworker on Thursday. Everybody get it? Simple, easy. And the last one is people who have already decided to, Joseph, agree that our services are the best choice. Joseph, agree. Joseph, agree. Joseph, agree. People who have already decided to use our IT services, Joseph, agree that we are the best in the industry. Type that out. Send it in an email. Use it in your marketing. Use it in your advertising. I write advertising scripts for people. I completely change programs for international corporations on how to advertise to the masses using subliminal messages and embedded commands. I mean, it's on every cup. It's on every single Starbucks cup. They never paid me for that, by the way. Do you know how Starbucks gets new information? They make you an employee. If you come to Starbucks up to Seattle at their headquarters and you have a new drink and it's a great idea, they will not use it. They'll make you an employee. They'll make you a barista. They'll make you work in a place, and then they'll take the idea and then only pay you your employee rate. That's how they get their ideas. So they don't pay consultants for anything. I was working for Mercedes-Benz, and then they saw me. They brought me into their headquarters, and I was teaching them embedded commands. I gave them the embedded command ideas, and then they ended up showing up on their cups. They never paid me. It's okay. I get to use it as an example now when I'm doing teaching. All right. So you've got on the bottom part of page 30, you might want to. This may not be relevant to you, but experience shows that. It's not important that. I'm not going to say, as you consider the benefits of people who have already decided to. Everybody get it? There's 7 of them there. Start using those. So as we go through today's material, here's the review class up here on the board. On the side, on the right-hand side on the PowerPoint, technique, phones, inbound phones, outbound phones. On the inbound, I'm happy to help you. Outbound, company name. This is ABC Company, and my name is Joseph. Always say the name of the company first. Listening skills, reinforcing skills. So, and then review on some of the material here on the pleasure letter. You've got a follow-up letter now. It's the only one I use. I was working for, who was it? Toshiba. And Toshiba Corporation asked me to do a presentation for their headquarters in Irvine, California. Toshiba National. We want you to do a sample for our managers because we want to hire you for a year contract to train 40 people a month for a year. Would you do a sample? So I did a sample and I sent a pleasure letter, this letter, to the woman who is the vice president of operations for Toshiba North America. Dear so-and-so, it was a pleasure doing a manager sample. Next line. An even greater pleasure would be to hear you say, we enjoyed your sample and would like to enter into a long-term business contract with your company, unquote. Wow, to hear you say that would be wonderful. And so 2 weeks later, I get a phone call and she says to me, we'd like to enter into a long-term business contract with your customer, with your service. The same exact words that I put in the letter. So I start doing the training. 4 months later, I'm teaching 30, 35 people in the classroom. And I'm teaching them how to do follow-up letters. And I didn't see that she came in the back of the room and was sitting in the room. And I started to brag on how I had sold this account. And I sent a letter to the vice president saying, an even greater pleasure would be to hear you say, we enjoyed the sample program and we'd like to enter. And she's in the back of the room and she says, enter into a long-term business contract. That's how you sold me. I had no idea she was in the room. So we laughed about it, but she realized that the technique that I had used on her, I was now teaching her new hires. Everybody get that? So to finish up today's program, did you guys enjoy today's class? You've got a lot of material here today. We're going to go back up, create a need, satisfy a need, close a need. This is all part of selling. And the last slide up here on the board. I want you to meditate for 20 minutes, twice a day. Exercise at least 30 minutes a day. Avoid processed foods. Eat plenty of organic fruits and vegetables. Spend more time in nature and less indoors. Stop worrying about things you can't control and ditch your TV. Everybody enjoyed today's class?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
Crystal.
Take care.
Thank you very much.